I figured there's a little bit of the template.
I might have nicked a few of his moves.
And some of his clothes.
Yeah, oh, definitely his clothes, yeah.
The pantsuit.
Yeah, I haven't gone there yet. Working on it. Cape. Not a good look.
Were you thinking about longevity when you started the band? Did you think that you'd still be doing it?
No, we didn't. We had this famous accountant's plan that we were supposed to have a few hits and then disappear forever.
They went bust though, didn't they?
They went bust. And to be honest, it was never our ambition to last this long, but it's been a wonderful dream come true, really. And see all the fans here, 36 years after our first single is absolutely fantastic. And
but it seems like you survived two huge personnel shakeups with Vince leaving, with Alan leaving, and certainly by the time Alan left, you could have called it quits too if you wanted. And you went through your crisis too. I mean, it's...
Well, we've all been through our things, like behind the scenes as well. All of us have had our sort of brushes with madness, right?
Yeah.
That's the way it goes. That's part of, kind of being in a rock and roll band. It's not nothing new.
It was scary though.
Yeah, but there was, and look, the thing is, when you survive through things like that in life, that are challenging, I do think you come out on the other side, if you're lucky to come out on the other side, a little bit wiser, I'd like to think, and it's just, I don't know, just it's an experience. I wouldn't wish it upon anyone else, some of the things that we've been through together, but definitely you learn from it.
It would have been boring not to have gone through it.
Yeah. And it was really inevitable from the moment we met, to be honest, probably.
Inevitably you'd go through...
Look, I mean, we grew up on the sort of council estates in Essex, in Basildon, and, what you do is you go to the pub, as soon as you can, and, it becomes a lifestyle. We were lucky to kind of get out of there, to be honest. I think all four of us at the time, including Vince, and one of our big, ideas about, certainly Vince and I used to talk about, was getting out of where we were.
So that was the ambition?
Escape, yeah.
But you're only 30 minutes from London. I mean, it wasn't...
Well, yeah, and we used to go up to London a lot, but it wasn't so much exactly now. As you get older, you realise it's not like what you're surrounded by, or it's a mental thing. I think we were all ambitious about something else in our life, and we didn't know what it was yet.
Yeah.
It may be 30 minutes from London, but there are a lot of people that don't make that journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Your songs have reached a lot of people on very primal levels. I mean, it seems like you speak to the way people think about each other, the way people think about faith. I mean, you go for deep stuff. I mean, do the songs reflect the struggle within you? I mean, do you learn things? Does something come out on the page when you write a song and you think, oh, that's what I feel about this? I mean, are they a revelation to you?
I've always said that this is going to sound so boring to anyone who's read an interview, but I've always said that the songwriting process is very weird, because I usually sit at a piano or strum a guitar or play some chords on put some chords into a computer or something and just start singing along. I don't write poetry and then put it to music.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, I'll get a verse and it might go into a chorus, and then I think, oh, that kind of makes sense.
Right. So you start.
Although that sounds really weird, it's sort of natural as well. So it's kind of an organic way to write because you're making up words that fit with the music.
Well, you know that the melody will go with the words if you do it that way.
Yeah.
But the melody does the melody generate a feeling in you?
I think it does. Yes. Even when I was younger, when I was 16, even when I was writing songs, I kind of like worked out that certain notes sounded good, and created an emotion. I used to buy a magazine called Disco 45, which had all the hits of the time in it, all the words. And I was a very bored teenager in my room, and I used to sit and learn how to play all of the songs on my guitar.
Right.
And I think that was the best learning curve for writing songs.
Is to play other songs.
Yeah, just to learn how to play everything that was all the crap in the charts.
Well, you internalize song structure. You internalize
yeah.
where the verse goes, what happens in the bridge.
I was doing that probably on a daily basis from 13 till at least 18, I would say. I didn't go out much.
I wondered where you were.
It's interesting though, because I think that's really interesting. But in my bedroom, I was doing the same thing with a broomstick in the mirror, pretending to be David Bowie. So our destiny was planted right there. My mum shouting up the stairs, "Shut up!"
Good thing you didn't listen.
Yeah, I know.
I remember a story about Vince Clarke on the same thing, that his mum wasn't happy with Vince playing his keyboard, so he decided to have headphones, and then she still was annoyed because of the clicking of the keys.
We lived in very little houses.
With thin walls, clearly.
Yeah.
Wow. The other thing I was thinking was, you don't use a lot of chords. You use counterpoint rather than chords. One of the, especially in the 80s when you were using mono synthesizers, everything was staccato. And I was wondering if it was because you could only play one note at a time on the keyboard,
Mostly,
or if it was, or if it was a puzzle.
Till Alan come along.
Yeah.
We pretty much
This is beyond me.
No, this stuff.
No, but also if you had one of those early synthesizers, it only made one note.
Right. But it also had a sound, though. I think that was what was interesting. You could make a sound out of a simple part that was a lot more interesting. To do it with a guitar, you had to be very good. And you had to, and what I mean by that is you could have a great idea, but you couldn't actually get it down because you weren't able to do it. But with the use of synthesizers and drum machines, you could get great ideas and make them into songs with a great songwriter.
We started off as a conventional band, and then Vince ordered us to become an electronic band. Pretty much.
There was never a drummer.
There's never a drummer.
Right.
No. A conventional way of doing it.
Fletch played bass.
I was on synth always.
Yeah.
But you could play guitar.
Yeah, that was the little twist.
You were overqualified.
Yeah, probably.
But when we first started out, we only had 3 monophonic synthesizers.
Right.
Very cheap, and we used to go to our gigs on the train, with our synths in suitcases.
And John, what would interest you is actually we were still like a normal band, because I played the bass synth, Martin played lead synth, and Vince played rhythm synth.
Yeah.
So.
And I played the drum machine.
And Dave was in charge of the drum machine.
So I would turn the tempo up as fast as possible so we could get back in the pub.
That explains how fast Just Can't Get Enough is.
Yeah.
But going back to the monophonic thing, so in the early days we couldn't even play chords on our instruments because they couldn't do it. But by the time I suppose by a broken frame, maybe I think we might have.
You had a PPG, right?
Yeah, PPG.
PPG, which was polyphonic.
But it's
Even
like,
though we still played only one note.
You know.
Even though it's polyphonic. Yeah.
But I would say that, none of us had any musical training.
Unlike you.
You keep coming up with musical terms like chords.
Martin Fletcher wasn't like, let's go back to the coda.
No, but we yeah, so, none of us had any musical training, so...
But you had Disco 45.
I had Disco 45, but somebody I knew taught me how to play 2 chords when I was 13, and then I think I got a chord book and learnt the rest of the chords from that.
Right. But the songs are still constructed. I mean, it's harder to do it that way than to strum, 4 chords. You have this note here and this note here and this note here. I mean, I was amazed. You were playing synthesizers that were probably really bulky and couldn't do much and went out of tune all the time. Mm-hmm. You were playing songs that were crazy little webs of counterpoint. It would have been easy to be a conventional band.
Well, yeah, but you see, back then as well, we would play all these little clubs and pubs and stuff like that, and we did play fast and we played loud, and that was one of the main things. We want to be loud.
We had
fast.
to make the audience dance
and a beat, and I think it's what Daniel Miller first when we were playing a gig with Fad Gadget, and he was mixing the sound for Fad Gadget, and he saw us. We did like a 25-minute set or something before Frank, and we were fast and loud. And I think he kind of, at the time, he sort of saw us as some kind of like, Ramonesy Beach Boys playing electronic instruments, sort of fast, and with the melodies of the Beach Boys, but fast and loud, with these kind of pop songs. That's what he thought was Silicon Teens, like the Silicon Teens, the original songs.
And you had harmonies back then.
Yeah, and then Daniel was a big, he really, we have to give him a lot of credit because in those early days in the studio as well, Daniel was very much, he had a couple of pieces of equipment, I think the ARP 2600 and a sequencer, and they found their way onto a lot of that early record, that first record.
Did he push you in sonic directions? Did he suggest it would be, did he say, you sound better when there's less going on behind you?
I think the track Photographic, which we did for the Some Bizarre album, that's the first track we ever worked with Daniel. And I think Daniel, like Dave said, what he brought in, the bass, the ARP 2600 bass drum, wasn't it?
Yeah. And
so it really helped our sound be tighter, I think.
Yeah, we didn't know. I mean, when you go in the studio, how old was we, 18, 19? And, I think the first studio we went to do demo was called Rockstar Studios or something. Is that right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
But anyway, we made a demo, and Vince and I used to take it around all the record companies and stuff, and, they'd just send us packing. But I think Daniel, he kind of had a bit more experience of being in the studio. Just a bit, not much, but enough to kind of push us in the right direction. We were very fortunate, it could have gone another way.
Yeah.
It could have gone another way easily.
We had many offers from major labels, and we decided to go with a man that was offering us no money. But
he had a weird briefcase.
We trusted he had a weird briefcase.
That he took everywhere.
We trusted him, and we liked the stuff on his label, and that's why we went, and on an independent label.
And it turned out to be a much better deal.
Well, Vince was, we were all very suspicious, but Vince, more than any of us, he was really very, I think, suspicious of anybody, but...
I have to butt in here. At one point, Vince wanted us to go to Africa, dress up in Doctor Who outfits.
I think we were offered that.
We were offered by this guy to go to Africa, dress up in Doctor Who outfits and play electronic reggae or something. Vince was quite serious.
Reggae.
He was serious about it.
Right. Yeah. It's probably why the reggae keeps turning up on every album. But yeah, no, but Vince. So Daniel, yeah, he really offered us not much, but we trusted him somehow. All we really wanted to make was a 45. Then we wanted to make a single. Right. We didn't want to sign a 7-album deal with some bunch of people that we were very suspicious of. So that's what we did.
Yeah.
Dreaming of me.
We were huge fans of Mute, though, even though Mute hadn't released a lot up until that point.
Yeah, huge. They can't be underestimated.
We loved, the
everything on it was good.
Everything on it was good, and everything on it was electronic. Mm-hmm. And we were electronic purists at that time. And I just want to say that Daniel is still with us to this day. He's still our mentor to this day. And he's been just as involved in this record that we're about to put out as he ever has been. And not production-wise, but
we don't see him as much because he's DJing around the world at the moment.
But he led us to James. I mean, there's always been key moments that, Daniel, whether it was Flood or Gareth Jones or people that have worked with us over the years, and Daniel, right up to the end of Black Celebration, was producing records with us, and we just got to that point where we reached that point where we had to, and he agreed. It was time for us to try something new. I think that's when we moved on to maybe Flood. I don't know.
No, we were
Dave Baskin.
Dave Baskin first.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've been pretty lucky to work with a lot of really interesting people. And they've always, and just at the right time, it seems, over all these years, someone's come along that's kind of shifted us in another direction slightly.
Well, I was going to ask you about turning points.
Challenge. There's sort of challenging points. You can see it after nearly 40 years.
Well. So who gave you the shove toward, say, Black Celebration, if that was a turning point for you?
Well, that was coming to the end, I always feel like, of a certain phase of what we were doing. And I think that was us kind of going... We were, up at that point, I think we'd had a lot of hit songs and singles and stuff like that. And I think we were being sort of... Not collectively, it's not something we all talked about, but we saw something else was happening. And we were kind of creating this cult following of our own, without having to have songs that were necessarily in the top 40 or something, or that were getting on the radio. There was a lot of pressure at that time to be on the radio, to have a certain amount of success. And I think we were kind of... That album was obviously not supposed to be on the radio. and it was a really good thing. We toured with that album, and it was a big success, for us.
Well, the album was a bigger statement than a single song.
Yeah.
That's still that.
I actually had a meeting with Daniel and Neil Ferris.
Neil Ferris, I was going to say.
Because I presented the demos to Daniel, and he played them to our plugger at the time, who's the guy who's supposed to be getting the songs on the radio. And they told me, sorry, you go back to the drawing board.
Everybody here is glad you did.
But we made the record anyway.
Yeah,
and
I ran away for a week.
Yeah, well, I remember it was a lot of pressure on Martin at that time. There was a lot of pressure on Martin, and I think we were kind of a bit rebellious still. With lads from Essex, and there was just that rebellious nature. So we kind of would do the opposite of what people told us to do at some point, and that worked in our favour, I think, a lot at that time as well. We were having a good time. We had a lot of fun. And was like a gang.
Yeah. Well, was there a turning point before Violator? Was there some set the direction of that album?
Not that was, we were on a roll at that time.
We was on a roll, yeah.
And just everything came together right on Violator. And with Francois Kevorkian mixing, Flood producing, and the quality of songs from Martin were just unbelievable,
But even so, at that... even so, at that time as well, I don't think we're not the type of guys, we don't go into the studio going, well, this one's, we're going to sell 10 million albums of this record, or this, we've never been that.
Right.
We're very pessimistic when it comes to...
I would never have known from the songs that you were pessimistic.
Actually, put my hand up here. There was the one time where we actually knew we'd... So imagine we'd sort of gone away from singles, really. And then Martin wrote a ballad called Enjoy the Silence. And I think it was in Puck Studio, wasn't it? And Alan, actually...
And Flood.
And Flood decided to, speed it up. Martin added
Put a beat to it.
And added a guitar line, and within an hour we knew we had a massive record.
Well, I think at the time that
That's
Martin,
very rare.
If you remember, I don't think Martin was too keen on the idea. He might have even gone back to the little room at Puck Studios for a couple of days. I think we were told to. I think Flood and Al said, just go away, give us a day or something. We're going to build something up. And I think they came up with a sort of backing track, which was the beat and the groove. And then Flood probably went to Martin, here's your green Gretsch, play something. And Martin came up, pretty much the first thing he played was the riff to Enjoy the Silence. So it was like, let's leave that right there. And then I went and sang, and I enjoyed singing it, and that was pretty much it.
We knew we had something.
Yeah, I think we messed around with it for a couple of days more, and then realised this is gold. Let's just leave it alone.
And then before that, we had Personal Jesus out, which I was convinced was going to be a complete disaster. Because using Jesus, that the powers would not play it or whatever. And then I think the 12...
And your mum wouldn't like it.
And my mum wouldn't like it. But then the 12-inch came out, and it sold like 1 million copies over here, and I was obviously wrong. And then, of course, we had Enjoy the Silence to follow it, and then boom, 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 it all went together.
Bing, bing, bing.
Yeah. And then, for some bizarre reason, we did our shortest tour ever afterwards.
When you were doing so well.
Yeah.
Good timing. But that era was also your excess era. Do you remember? Was the studio a refuge? Was the studio a?
Well, Violator was actually a fun party time.
Yeah. Everything was working, we were young and...
You could stay up late.
But,
Violator, we were functioning just about.
And also we were having fun with it. It was like, look, we always were a band that enjoyed the other things that go on with being in a band, and we certainly
You mean like
had fun
practicing
with
your
that.
instrument?
Well, it went hand in hand. Quite often in the studio, we'd be sneaking off, Daniel would be left there or whatever it was, and we'd be going off to a club or whatever, maybe come back later sometime.
Rarely.
But that, that's the way, that's the way things was, and it was a lot of fun. That's kind of the way we did things. We partied hard and we worked hard.
Yeah, this was the era of the tequila slammers, plus more.
That was tequila slammers
Yeah.
with champagne.
Yeah.
It wasn't ginger, it was champagne and tequila, yeah. That was good.
Another turning point we were talking about was Condemnation. Can you talk about writing the song, and can you talk about singing the song? Because that's such a great song.
Yeah, the one thing I remember about that is just having a very basic demo, because I think that was around the time, I think for Violator and Songs of Faith and Devotion, Flood and Alan especially had said, keep the demos as simple as possible. And I think I'd just done a piano vocal version of Condemnation. And
did those words just come to you? That's
yes, that was one of those ones. Sometimes you just sit there and you write a song and just all the words flow.
Wow.
And that was one of those times.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I just remember Flood saying to me, have you got any more songs? And I said, I've got one more. and I played it to him, and he went, that's amazing. You haven't got any more.
What was that then?
Yeah, Flood asked me. I remember having one more song.
Well, back then as well with the songs, we used to go over to Mark's flat or whatever, and we'd hear his demos, and usually they were completely inaudible. You know, you kind of had to really so a lot of hiss because it's on cassette, so it's like there was a lot of hiss on the tape. But no, that song, I knew immediately when I heard it that there was something really special about it. And I got lucky with that. It was one of those songs, singing it, that I think that's the first time I felt like a singer.
Oh. It's like a puppy just died or something.
A little late in the career for that, though.
I'm sorry?
A little late in the career to feel like a singer.
Well, not really. I mean, I'd had a few moments before, but that was definitely a monumental moment for me because I think I sang the song a few times. I was in a certain spot that I really liked. I liked the sound that was in my headphones. I remember Flood, and we was ever in the control room just saying, just sing it down. We were in a house in Madrid, and I was down in the garage, and it just had a weird ambience down there.
Tiled.
It was all tiled, so it was very bright. But and I just went for it, and like sang the song in its entirety, and like Martin wrote it, like it came. Like when songs come like that, you just leave it alone. And I think Flood was kind of like, okay, come on up, that's it. And still to this day, like if I go to sing that song, there's something, you never sing it the same twice. It's unique. And it's a beautiful song. I love it. I don't know what it is about the words and the sentiment in the song, but it moved me. You know, so.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those songs that has spirituality, it has carnality, but it just poured out. That you just came, it poured through you. Mm-hmm. Nice work. Another song I'm curious about. Oh, sorry, what were you
No, I
going
was
to say?
going to say, is it work?
Well,
When it just comes like that, is it work? Is it?
nice work if you can get it, maybe.
I mean, but you sometimes you tap into something, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah. No, it feels bigger than you.
Yes.
I was going to ask about one of my favorite mental images of you guys is of you recording in Berlin in the early sampling days and going around with your tape recorders and banging on things.
I know that piece of film you're talking about. I was talking about it to Martin recently.
But is that how People came out? Because I love those sounds. Those sounds are so messy.
Yeah, most of the sampling started at construction time again, when we were recording in Shoreditch in London, and we used to walk around Brick Lane and around the area just hitting things, and we recorded Somebody in a train...
Pipeline,
in a train, sort of like trains coming past and things like that. I mean, it's quite amazing. And in Berlin, we did the same thing. It was so exciting, technology at that time.
Also, yeah, we used to, one of the first things we would do when we got into the studio, especially when you could do this, was we would probably like raid the kitchen, like, and look for all the metal pots and pans and anything that made an interesting noise. Everyone was sort of running around. We worked with this guy, Gareth Jones, and his energy and enthusiasm was really infectious. And he'd have us sort of running around looking for things. So everyone was trying to find something exciting to record that he would then somehow we'd loop a sample and make into a rhythm or a part that quite often on a song that Martin had written would create the atmosphere. It would begin the atmosphere of where we were going to go recording-wise.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about sampling live sounds is it has the randomness and it has naturalness in it.
Yeah.
And then you manage to bring the random noise into the digital universe, but you still had something wrong, something detuned, something.
Yeah, it was a little off.
Right, like Andy said though, when we record kitchen utensils or whatever. But then we'd also go out with big sledgehammers onto building sites or under the archways or whatever and find like big, huge pieces of metal.
Yeah,
Gareth would have his big, like reel-to-reel recorder, and
his big headphones on.
Yeah.
He had these giant headphones. I don't know where he looked like something from Doctor Who. And we must have looked pretty weird, to be honest. We'd go with these people, and quite often there was builders, and we'd smash things and break things, and which took me back to my teenage years.
I remember the bass drum for I think it was People Are People was actually a bass drum that had like the initial hit of a big slab of metal that we'd smacked, edited onto it.
So you would combine instruments and noise?
Oh, yeah, a lot of that. There was a lot of that. Once we got into multi-track recording, it got ridiculous, actually. I think at one point we were running 2 48-track machines.
One time when we did Master and Servant, we had this massive 56-channel desk, and we mixed it for 3 weeks. When we got the acetates back, we'd left out the bass drum,
the
snare drum in the whole outro. After a 3-week mix.
Does anyone know what an acetate is? That's pretty late in the during the process. Yeah. That's when you're,
it's going
finished
press.
And ready to go to radio.
Yeah, I don't know who noticed, but we at that point
when we took it to the club, I think. No one danced.
We used to do that too. We'd notice these things because we'd be so sort of into the mix, and so everybody kind of was into like the sound and what went where and everything, and then to leave something monumental off like the snare drum, when there's 56 other things going on that don't really do anything, it was pretty bad.
When we then would take this vinyl to the local club, and play it,
in Berlin,
with them, no one knowing who it was.
We thought they could really get them going.
And then we remember we played our mix, and then the next mix on was Relax by Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
And it sounded way better.
Ours sounded terrible.
Yes, but I think we cleared the floor on that one.
Do you think about making dance beats? I mean, because your music, it's obviously been remixed and sampled forever, but were you thinking at the time, these are just great grooves?
We did start out like that a little bit because we had a group of friends that we used to go to clubs with. This is sort of post-punk. And everybody was trying to find something where it was Fad Gadget or it was David Bowie or it was Roxy Music or whatever where they were playing in the club. But it was looking for something that you could move to and dance to that wasn't just disco. Mm-hmm. And so I think in the beginning, we kind of were trying to make music for our friends.
And now you have 30 million friends.
Right, yeah.
But were you surprised when your stuff started turning up in hip-hop?
Yeah. I think we did, try to make kind of dance music a bit.
Yeah, a bit.
But obviously not all the time, because a lot of the stuff was like completely undanceable.
Yeah, I mean, we might have thought it was danceable, but once we took it to the club and everybody left the floor, we realised it wasn't.
It's a good experiment.
There was probably a lot of beer involved, I'm sure.
We can do some audience questions. It's hard to see you guys, but I assume somebody out there has a microphone. So think of one while I.
No
do you
rude
have
ones.
a song
no
that was
rude.
like, without this song, we couldn't have gotten. Was there one or two pivotal songs?
I'm sure there is.
Probably with the first one would probably be Just Can't Get Enough.
Yeah.
You've got to give some credit to Vince there.
Yeah, we do. Yeah,
Is that why you still play it?
Yeah.
Sorry?
Is that why you're still playing
everyone.
it? You're playing it online. You played it on tour.
We played it on the last tour, I think. Yeah.
We did on the last tour.
Yeah.
We rocked it.
Okay, who's got the mic? You on the right.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Do you guys have a lot of unreleased recordings in the vault?
Tons.
And
When we finally go, they'll be released.
Well, are they unreleased for quality control?
We probably don't have anything. Maybe. I don't know, do we?
I honestly think that I remember we started one song once that we didn't finish.
Really?
That's not a joke.
So there is one. There's one.
I think there's one.
It's not finished. Maybe you can finish it.
Yeah,
for
someone
us.
will have to finish it.
Okay.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for tonight. This is absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much. A very special song to me is Home.
Thank
Could
you.
you talk a little bit about how that came about, what's behind it, the meaning?
Oh, what was that?
God.
I know what he's going to say.
Do you? Please.
Well, I always thought it was about home, going home, etc., etc. And then Martin said, it's not about that, it's about death. Is that true?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, I was going through a very dark period at that time. And, you know, I just imagined that I was heading for an early grave and kind of accepting that at that point.
Thank you. Beautiful.
Oh, you got a clap for that.
Stick around, okay?
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi. Hi, my name is Michelle. Along with music, I think you guys have released some absolutely visually stunning videos over the years. Are there any videos that stand out as one of your favorites or some of your favorites to shoot?
Well, we owe a lot of credit to Anton for that.
Yes.
One of the things that John asked about earlier, where you said about turning point, I think one thing we didn't say was that in 1986, you know, Anton relented and agreed to work with us. We'd asked him a few times before that, but he'd absolutely refused. And looking back, I don't blame him. but he really did, help to change the way we were perceived. And I think that came, coincidentally around the same time that we were changing musically. But we owe a lot to Anton as well. And his videos have been, and everything he does for us artistically is, a huge part of what we do.
Thank you. I love you. I love you all. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for the soundtrack to my life. My name is Christian, and I have a songwriting question. Mr. Gahan, you have become more of a songwriter with your solo work, The Soul Savers, and now within the context of Depeche Mode, making one of the greatest bands in the whole world better. I want to know, was becoming a songwriter, has that changed the way you look at the lyrics Martin has written over the years? Because you were the verbal interpreter or the sonic interpreter of his words for so many years. Do you have a fresh perspective on his lyrics now that you are putting lyrics out there for us to enjoy?
That's a good question. Martin's songs change for me all the time, from tour to tour as well, quite often. It really, his songs have quite often reflected very closely what I've felt, which is a little odd at times. But they've also carried me and helped me to sometimes see myself before I got myself in real trouble, as like Mark was talking about with Home. And I think because they're songs about life, they're about real life. And that's why some of the subject matter, a lot of the subject matter is sometimes a bit hard to swallow because it's truthful. And that's what makes a good song. If you're lucky enough to tap into that sometimes. And I'm very lucky because I've been fortunate enough to work with a few other musicians and writers that have kind of brought that out of me. And Martin, that includes Martin. You know, when we're in the studio together, he enhances what I do. And I hope that what I do with my voice is I go to great lengths myself to really get behind his songs and bring a sense of soulfulness, if you like, or something, or spirit to
Thank you for everything.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I have two questions. First is with the modern age, with like GarageBand and computer programming, does it change your music writing? For example, Martin, you used to write on a guitar and a piano, and the same thing with Dave. When you write your songs, do you sit down and say, all right, let me put on the Mac and get a beat going, or is it something more different to it, or is it just still the same guitar, piano? And the other question is, how do you guys decide who sings what in the studio? For example, like Peace could have been a Martin song, and Heaven could have been a Martin. Like, do you say, hey, Martin, I want to really sing that one, or something to that effect?
Sometimes that's what happens, quite simply, and sometimes I just kind of feel there's a certain song that I kind of think Martin probably wants to sing that one, and I don't know if he really feels that, or it's more suited to his voice, or it's hard to really answer that question.
Well, I think for me, it's usually quite obvious that the majority of the songs suit Dave's voice.
Mm-hmm. The feminine ones. The feminine ones suit Martin.
What? Yeah.
Feminines.
No, I mean Dave takes the songs that I write to another level. His voice, has a bit more aggression to it, and a power that my voice doesn't have. So to me, it's obvious that Dave should sing the majority of the songs.
And I just want to say, World in My Eyes was our wedding song with my wife. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Dave, I hope you're healthy for the tour. And thank you very much. And can you please play Sun in the Rainfall? I know I asked you before.
Uh-oh, requests. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead.
Speaking of the tour, I thought what you did in terms of like selling tour tickets this time around was really effective in terms of beating the bots. I don't know if you guys had any involvement with that.
What was that again, sorry?
In terms of like, how you went about and you queued everybody up as opposed to just like selling tickets at a certain time. I thought that was a really innovative method, and maybe some people don't think it worked as well, but I thought that it was a good way of trying to beat the bots.
Well, it has to be said that we, over the years, and we have really incredible people who work with us and for us and have been supportive and come up with a lot of these ideas for many years. Jonathan Kessler and Alex Pollock, they come up with some of these ideas, and the thing about Depeche Mode is that we like to think as well that we kind of do things our way. And we have always been a little unique in that department, and a little different, sometimes a little odd. But odd is good, different is good.
But I mean, the idea, are you talking about the tickets?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always been frustrating to us, especially sometimes in the past when we play to an audience and the people in the first 10 rows aren't the fans, and the fans are back there. So we try as hard as possible to make sure the fans are in front of us.
The idea behind that whole system was to get rid of, touts.
Right.
Scalpers.
Scalpers over here,
Sorry,
yeah,
scalpers,
yeah.
you call them over here, sorry.
We've been over here for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like
And apparently it's been very effective.
I agree.
We got given a huge number. I can't remember it now, but we've actually found out that a huge number of people were scalpers.
Yeah. All right, well,
So
thank you.
they
And
don't
I look
get
forward
tickets.
to seeing you. So.
Yeah.
Hello. I have two requests for this tour. And I was wondering if your set list is basically like 20, 22 songs. Is there any way you can do like 25 to 30 songs?
You know, it sounds like a good idea, but in practice, trust me, it's if you could do it a couple of nights, then there'd be many nights that would be cancelled. There's only so much you can do with the voice before it gives out.
And if you're gonna do this on this set list, I was wondering if you could include Blasphemous Rumors and the stories of old, and
Wow, they're digging deep.
I'd have to,
things you said.
I have to say that, you know, one of our big problems is, you know, like Dave pointed out, we can only play for so long, and we have such a big back catalogue, you know, of classic tracks. We physically can't play everything, unless you're The Cure and Robert Smith. But Robert stands still and plays his guitar. Our boy is a natural dancer.
Do I see a rivalry?
So it's one of our big things, really. We can't put every track in.
It's still good to have too many good songs. Go ahead over here.
Yeah, hey guys. I was wondering, is there, for each of you, is there like a particular track that is just personally something that you love but maybe wasn't so commercially successful? Like just like something passionate that if you're writing the set list for yourself that you would include every time?
I mean, my favourite is World in My Eyes.
Which we're doing.
Pardon?
Which we're doing.
Oh, yeah.
We are doing.
That we're not doing.
We are doing.
Oh, yeah.
Or are we? Or are we?
And that really I like that so much because, you know, we started in this small town near London and, you know, we've really just almost not conquered the world as such, but it's just been a great trip. Yeah.
For sure. Sorry, that was to everyone.
Secret favorite?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really. I don't know if I have one. You know, I used to say Surrender. I like Surrender. You know, that'll be my one then. Yeah. Okay.
That we don't do or we haven't done.
One that hasn't been successful, maybe.
They've all been
Which
successful. Which one is that? Yeah. You know, there's always tracks on albums that there's certain songs on albums that sometimes just don't translate live. You might try them out and you can feel it. I can feel it. I know, you know, I sort of pick up on it straight away when, you know, we might work a song a few nights and it's just not working for some reason. You don't know why. And then there are songs on albums that you like on this album, there's a couple of songs that I don't think will perform live in the set, which happen to be personal favourites, for instance. You know, I'm not going to name them right now because I don't know if you've all heard them. But the album got leaked, right?
Yeah.
All right, so Worst Crime is one of those songs.
That's bad.
You know, which I love that song, and it was one of the songs that when Martin first played his demos, it struck me in much the same way that Condemnation did. And, you know, we might end up doing it somewhere, on TV or radio or something. You don't know. It's one of those songs that can be done very simply and I think can be very effective. But on a big stage in front of 50,000 people, it might not translate so well. But anyway, you know, it's like what Mike says, and Fletcher says, you can't do everything. What we try and do is, when we're working with a new body of work, it's important to us to play some of those new songs because that's what we're feeling right now. And then what we do is we try and find songs from the past that are going to also sit alongside those songs and work well. And then, of course, there are certain songs that you all know and love that it would be really weird not playing. Like if we didn't do Personal Jesus, you'd be pretty upset, right? You know, so There you go.
Well, I was actually
Thank
thinking
you.
one of the songs from way in the distant past, "Everything Counts," sounds like it belongs on this album. I mean, where did that one come from? You didn't even have a contract, you had a handshake.
Well, funnily enough, that's the only other album really that was kind of like social commentary.
Yeah.
You know, that's a bit weird for us to go back there after all this time.
But was that song a reaction to something, or Beyond the Grasping Hands?
I think at that time, you know, we just, you know, got out of Basildon. We'd become a little bit more worldly and started, like, you know, grasping what was going on in the world a bit. And
Probably with us too, and with us and with the whole thing and the sort of pressure that you sort of start to feel to have a hit single or stuff like that. There was, I don't know, and there was certainly, we came from, like I said before, we come from a very sort of working class background, and you know, when you're told as a young kid that you're not going to amount to much, it's, you hit back.
Yeah. Have you ever thought of writing songs together?
Martin and I've written a couple.
we have.
Yeah.
A couple albums ago. Well, more songs together, because yours are usually with someone else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very sort of like, I like that sort of magical thing that happens when someone who's almost a complete stranger that don't necessarily even really communicate that well with, but something musically happens. It's sort of magic. It's like, and when it works, it's really kind of cool. And Martin has, you know, sent me a couple of things in the past, and something even on this record.
I haven't seen the credits for this.
Which was also in a very weird time signature,
which
kind
song?
of. And he sent me something, and we ended up writing a song together.
Okay, I haven't seen the credits. All I've
That one's 3132, if you want to know.
sounds good, and it'll be tearing up the dance floors.
You can dance to
Which
it.
side were we on? Go ahead.
Hi guys, is that on? Hi guys, Tom from New York, long time, mega absurd, crazy fan. So quick question for Martin, actually. So this is something I've always wondered, and now I have the chance to ask it. So the fact that you didn't get any classical training or any real musical training, do you think that helped define your sound and kind of made you what you are? Do you think it would have been easier for you to be successful if you had been trained and had, you know, some kind of structure and knew how to kind of go forward? Because I think that one of the greatest things about you is that you are so different than everybody else.
Yes, thank you. I wondered that at times if it was a benefit not having a musical training.
Excuse me.
And then there was one holiday I was on once, and I met a couple of people and ended up back at somebody's house who introduced me to their boyfriend, who was a classically trained concert pianist. And they said, "Oh, I hear you're a musician. Can you play us something?" So I played I can't even remember what I played. I played them one song, and they went, "Oh, it sounds really sad." and then the concert pianist went on to play who wrote the funeral march, you'll know that. Chopin, but the whole thing. I mean, we all know the famous bit, but no one knows the other 40 minutes, or whatever it is. And I felt quite small after that. So I don't know, maybe it would have benefited me to have a little bit more of a musical training.
You got to do the last question over here.
Hi. I just wondered, Martin, you were speaking earlier about other people interpreting your music, and there's a band called NTTX that did a version of New Dress, and I just wondered if you had listened to it, and if you had any opinion about it, and if not, if you guys actually, get onto YouTube and sort of look for, not really look for, but listen to people who have done your music, perhaps, in different variations of it.
Yeah, I haven't heard that version. I think it's quite weird and quite good, but quite weird, the whole tribute band thing. I sometimes can spend an hour It's very funny to do.
Depeche Mode tribute band?
Yes, yeah.
Do you learn anything about the songs?
No, not.
Well, anyway.
It's a little sad.
It's a little sad.
No, it's
One more.
My name's Isabella, and I'm 10. I've listened to your songs my whole life, and I'd like to know how you come up with the ideas for your songs.
Well, I just, like I said, I start playing chords and singing, and something, words come out, and then when, I'm not joking. No, and then sometimes, those words make sense, and then it becomes a song. And I don't know about you.
I mean, it's the same process. I'll hear somebody else playing chords, which sometimes I like and sometimes I don't. But when something happens, and quite often a single word or something pops into my head, I don't know why. For instance, a song on this album where a phrase came up as poison in my heart. And I don't know why that came, but very quickly the rest of the song came. Within sort of 30 minutes, I had the song written. That happens rarely, by the way.
That's why you remember it.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. This is the wildest audience.
Thank you, John.
Got my chili peppers.
You got your peppers.
I can